The fire reached her before the fear did. Heat kissed her ankles, then bit. Smoke clawed into her lungs, sharp and bitter, stealing her breath as she staggered backward from the burning cabin. Sparks leaped like living things, catching in her hair. Her nightgown, the dry air itself. For one heartbeat, the world narrowed to heat and sound and the scream. Caught in her throat, then hooves thundered. They came out of the darkness, fast and silent, shapes riding the edge of the firelight. Horses, men, shadows with eyes that glinted like steel. Eliza's heart froze where she stood, barefoot in the dirt, smoke curling around her like a shroud. Her home collapsed inward behind her with a roar. Flames devouring the last pieces of the life she had built with her husband. The riders circled her. Without a word, she knew who they were. Everyone did. Stories whispered in taverns and churches spoke of them, of how they came like storms and left nothing but ash. Her hands trembled as she clutched the small tin locket at her throat. The only thing she had saved. Inside was a faded picture of Thomas, her husband. Taken before sickness hollowed his face and stole his breath. The men stopped. One dismounted. He moved with unsettling calm. Tall and broad-shouldered, his presence heavy in the air. Firelight carved sharp lines across his face, catching the pale scars that marked his cheek and jaw. His dark eyes fixed on her, unreadable, ancient somehow. In his hand, a knife glinted, worn smooth by years of use. Eliza's heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. She thought of running. There was nowhere to go. She thought of screaming. Her throat locked. She thought of Thomas, of the last night she had held him as his breathing failed, of the way he had whispered her name like a prayer. A strange calm settled over her then, heavy and final. If this was how she died, she would meet it standing. The man stepped closer. The other? Riders watched in silence, their horses shifting, snorting softly. Heat from the fire licked at her back. The ground felt unsteady beneath her bare feet. He raised the knife. Time slowed. She saw the edge catch the firelight. Saw the curve of his knuckles. The faint scar that cut through his brow. She smelled leather, smoke, the sharp tang of sweat, and dust. And something in her broke open. "If I must die," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "Let me have one thing first." The man's hand stilled. She swallowed, forcing the words past the fear clawing her throat. "Give me one kiss," she whispered. "Let me die remembering I was once loved." The world went silent. The wind seemed to hold its breath. Even the horses stilled, ears flicking back. For a long moment, the man did not move. His eyes searched her face as if reading a language he barely understood. Something flickered their surprise, confusion, maybe something like sorrow. Slowly, the knife lowered. A murmur rippled through the riders. One spoke sharply in a tongue she did not know. Another laughed under his breath. The man silenced them with a glance. He stepped closer, so close she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes. The wear of years etched into his skin. She could smell him now, leather, smoke, earth. He lifted his hand, hesitating inches. From her cheek, Eliza closed her eyes, but the touch never came. Instead, his fingers hovered there, trembling before he pulled his hand away as if burned. He said something low, a single word, heavy with meaning. The sound of it stirred the air. Between them, then he turned and barked an order. The riders shifted, confusion rippling through them. One protested, another laughed harshly. The leader silenced them with a sharp gesture. He turned back to her and, without a word, reached for her arm. His grip was firm, but not cruel. With practiced ease, he lifted her onto his horse, settling her in front of him as if she weighed nothing. She gasped as the horse surged forward. The fire fell away behind them. her burning home collapsing into itself with a final roar. Sparks climbed into the night sky like dying stars. She did not look back. They rode hard, the land opening into dark stretches of plain and shadow. The wind tore at her hair, pressed her against his chest. She could feel the steady rise and fall of his breathing, the powerful rhythm of his body guiding the horse beneath them. Fear still lived in her chest, but something else had joined it now. Confusion, shock, a fragile, dangerous spark of hope she did not dare name. After a long while, the pace slowed. The night cooled. The man spoke again, this time softer, the sound roughened by an accent she could not place. "You are not to speak," he said. "You are not to struggle." She nodded, unsure if he could see. They rode on at last. Faint shapes emerged ahead, dark forms against the sky. Figures moved between them. Fires glowed low. Voices murmured. A camp. The riders slowed. The man lifted her down from the horse with care that surprised her. Her legs wobbled, nearly giving out. He steadied her, then released her at once, as if afraid to linger. Eyes turned toward her, curious, wary. Cold, she felt suddenly very small. A woman stepped forward, her expression sharp and unwelcoming. She spoke rapidly to the man. He answered, his voice firm. The woman's gaze cut back to Eliza like a blade. The man turned once more to her. His eyes searched her face as if weighing something unseen. Then he spoke a single word. It sounded like a name. Whether it was his or hers, she did not yet know. But as the camp closed around her and the night deepened, Eliza understood one thing. With aching clarity, she had not been spared. She had been chosen. Eliza woke to the taste of dust. Her tongue felt like dry leather. Her lips cracked when she tried to swallow. For a moment, she did not know where she was. Then she smelled wood smoke and damp hide, and she remembered the fire. The riders. The knife that paused in midair. She sat up too fast, and the world tipped. A strip of rawhide still circled her wrists. Not tight enough to cut, but firm enough to remind her she had no say here. The ground beneath her was packed earth. A hide wall rose beside her, stretched over poles. Someone had placed her near the edge of the camp, like a stray dog kept close. Enough to watch, far enough to ignore. The morning light was pale and cold. Across the camp, people moved with quiet purpose. Women tended low fires. Children darted between lodges until they noticed her, then slowed, staring with wide eyes. Men checked tack, sharpened blades, spoke in low tones that carried no warmth. Eliza pulled her knees to her chest. Her nightgown had torn in several places on the ride. Smoke stains still marked her skin. She must have looked half wild. A shadow fell over her. The leader stood there, still as a fence post. In daylight, his scars looked older, deeper. His hair was braided tight, threaded with feathers and beads. His eyes held the same calm as the night before. But now she saw something else under a control. He crouched a few steps away, not close enough to touch. He held a small wooden bowl out to her. Steam rose from it. Eliza hesitated. He waited. The bowl smelled of meat and roots. It made her stomach twist with hunger. She took it carefully, her bound hands awkward. Her fingers shook. As she brought it to her mouth, hot broth burned her tongue, but she swallowed anyway. The warmth spread through her chest like a slow miracle. He watched her eat. When she finished, he took the bowl back without a word. Then he spoke in rough English, each word shaped with effort. "You are Eliza," he said. She blinked. Yes. He nodded once, as if placing the fact in a safe place inside him. "I am Red Hawk." The name landed heavy. It sounded like wind and stone. A stir rose behind him. A man approached, younger, hard-eyed, with a long scar pulled tight across his cheek. He spoke quickly in their language, sharp and angry. He pointed at Eliza, then dragged a finger across his throat. Eliza understood that much. Red Hawk did not turn to look at him. He answered in a low voice, firm, final. His tone carried authority like a whip. The younger man spat into the dirt and stalked away. Eliza's throat tightened. He wants me dead. Red Hawk's gaze returned to her. Many do. The honesty hit harder than cruelty. Eliza stared at him, fighting the urge to shrink. Why did you bring me here then? Kay looked past her, toward the open plain beyond the lodges. For a moment his face softened, so faintly she almost imagined it. You asked, he said. That is not an answer. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, in thought. He spoke slowly, searching for the right words. You asked for kiss, not for life, not for mercy. You chose your death. Eliza's chest tightened. She thought of Thomas, of fever-hot skin and the last whisper of his voice. She looked down at her bound wrists. I was tired, she said. Tired of being alone? Red Hawk held her gaze. Alone is a hard enemy. The words were simple, but they struck deep. Eliza felt her eyes sting. She forced the tears back before they could fall. He rose. Come, two women appeared, older, watching her like hawks. One carried a blanket. The other carried a waterskin. They guided Eliza toward the creek without touching her. The water was cold enough to hurt. Eliza washed soot from her face, rubbed her arms until her skin warmed again. The older woman loosened the rawhide so she could move her hands more freely, then tightened it again when she finished. Not cruel, not kind, just done. Back at the camp's edge, they sat her beside a small fire. Someone tossed a buffalo robe across her shoulders. It smelled like smoke and animal and weather. Eliza wrapped it tight, shaking. Across the circle of lodges, Red Hawk stood with several men. The scarred young warrior spoke again, voice rising. Others joined him. Their words were quick and cutting. Eliza could not understand, but she could feel the tension like thunder in the air. Then a quieter man stepped forward. He was younger than Red Hawk, but older than the scarred one. His eyes avoided Eliza's. He spoke softly, as if trying to calm a storm. Red Hawk listened. Then he said one sentence that ended the argument. The group fell silent. The scarred warrior looked away, jaw tight, defeated for now. The quiet man drifted toward Eliza later, moving like he did not want anyone to notice. He stopped a few paces away and spoke in broken English. You make trouble, he said. Eliza let out a dry laugh. I did not ride here by choice. He studied her with something like pity, then shook his head. Trouble comes anyway. Like snake in grass. What is your name? She asked. He hesitated. They call me Two Rivers. The name fit him. Quiet, steady, always watching. Eliza lowered her voice. Why does he protect me? Two Rivers glanced toward Red Hawk, then back at her. Red Hawk does not protect easy. He carries heavy rules, heavy eyes on him. What did I do to earn it? Two Rivers' mouth twitched, almost a smile, then vanished. You did not beg. You did not cry. You asked for kiss like you already had peace with dying. Warriors respect that. Eliza swallowed. I did not have peace. I had emptiness. Two Rivers' gaze softened. Emptiness makes people brave, or makes them break. He leaned closer, voice lower. Scarman, he is called Crowtooth. He hates you. Eliza nodded. She had felt that hate like a blade. And women, Two Rivers added. Some will hate more. They lost family to white men. They see you and feel old blood again. Eliza's stomach turned. Then why let me live? Two Rivers looked at her for a long moment. Maybe spirits did not finish with you? He left then, fading back into the camp as if he had never spoken. The day crawled by. Eliza watched life move around her. Children were fed, hides were scraped. Meat was cut and dried. A woman sang softly as she worked, a thin melody that rose and fell like wind through tall grass. It made Eliza's throat tighten with a loneliness she could not name. Near sunset, Red Hawk returned. He crouched beside her again, careful with distance. "Council meets tomorrow," he said. Eliza's heart thumped. "To decide what happens. To me? Yes." She stared into the small fire. Sparks lifted into the dusk and vanished. "And what do you want?" Red Hawk was silent for so long she thought he would not answer. Then he spoke, quiet as ash. "I want you to live," he said. "But living has price." Eliza lifted her eyes. "For me?" His gaze did not move. "For me too." She understood then. His choice was not private. It was a stone thrown into still water. Ripples were spreading through the camp. Eliza's voice dropped. "You never gave me that kiss." A muscle jumped in his jaw. He looked away, just for a breath. "No? Why?" He returned his gaze to her, and in it she saw the first crack in the warrior mask. Not weakness. Something human. "Because kiss is not for dying," he said. "Kiss is for promise." Eliza's breath caught. The fire popped. Night gathered. Around them, "What promise?" she whispered. Red Hawk stood. His shadow stretched long across the ground. "Tomorrow, you learn." He walked away without looking back. Eliza pulled the buffalo robe tight. Her wrists still ached. Her body still carried the ride in every bruise and scrape. Yet under the fear, something else stirred. A fragile thread tomorrow would decide if she was a corpse waiting in daylight, or a woman who would be forced to become something new, and she did not know which frightened her more. Morning came without ceremony. No drum announced it. No voice called her name. Only the slow lifting of light over the plains and the quiet stirring of a camp already awake. Eliza woke, stiff and aching, her body reminding her of every bruise earned. The day before, the buffalo robe had slipped during the night, and the chill had crept deep into her bones. She pushed herself upright and drew it around her shoulders, scanning the camp. People moved with purpose. Fires were rekindled. Children ran messages. Women carried bundles of hides and tools. Men gathered in small groups, their voices low, measured. No one looked at her directly, yet she felt every glance. She was no longer invisible. A woman approached Holder. Broad-shouldered, hair streaked with gray, and bound in a long braid. Her face was lined, strong, weathered by years of sun and wind. This was the same woman who had brought her food the night before. She held out a folded garment. Eliza hesitated. "Put on," the woman said simply. The garment was a plain dress, of softened hide, worn but clean, stitched with careful hands. Eliza slipped it over her head. It fit surprisingly well, as if made with her in mind. The woman studied her for a moment, then nodded once and walked away. Eliza exhaled. Across the camp, she saw Red Hawk standing with several elders. He did not look at her, but she felt his awareness all the same, like a current she had learned. 2 cents, then a low sound rolled through the camp-a-horn made from bone. Conversation stilled. Movement slowed. The air shifted. The council was gathering. 2 young men approached Eliza, their expressions unreadable. One gestured for her to follow. She did. They led her to the center of the camp, where a wide circle had formed. Men and women stood shoulder to shoulder, faces carved with expectation, doubt, and curiosity. At the far side stood the elders, their presence heavy as stone. Red Hawk took his place among them. Eliza's heart began to pound. She stood alone in the open space, every eye upon her. The sun climbed higher, warm on her skin. Dust stirred around her bare feet. The eldest elder stepped forward, leaning on a staff polished, smooth by age. His hair was white as ash, his eyes sharp and unyielding. He spoke in a low, even voice. The words were translated slowly by the woman who had brought her food the night before. "She stands among us not as kin," the woman said, echoing his voice, "but not as enemy either. She stands between." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "She has lived when death stood ready," the elder continued. "She has not begged. She has not fled. Now she will be tested." Eliza swallowed hard. The elder raised his staff and pointed toward the edge of the camp, where the land sloped into rough ground, scattered with stone and scrub. "There," he said, "the trial waits." The woman beside Eliza leaned close. "You must walk to the old ridge. Alone." Eliza nodded. Her legs trembled, but she did not step back. Red Hawk's gaze met hers across the circle. His expression was unreadable, but something passed between them: recognition, warning, resolve. She turned and walked. The land beyond the camp was uneven, the soil broken by stone and scrub. The sun climbed higher, heat pressing down on her shoulders. Each step jarred her bruises. But she kept moving. She did not know what she was meant to do. Only that stopping was not an option. The ridge rose ahead of her, a low line of rock and scrub. As she climbed, the world behind her fell quiet. Wind hissed through dry grass. Insects buzzed. Her breath came shallow. At the top, she found it. A circle of stones, ancient and weathered, arranged with deliberate care. At its center lay a bundle of dried sage and a shallow bowl. Carved from wood, she hesitated. Then she understood. This was not a test of strength. It was a test of choice. She stepped into the circle and knelt. The ground was warm beneath her knees. She closed her eyes and breathed. Letting the noise of fear settle, images came unbidden, smiling in the doorway of their cabin. The crackle of the fire, the smell of bread, then the flames, the loneliness, the long, hollow days. She opened her eyes. "I am here," she said softly, though no one stood before her. "I do not know what you want of me, but I am still standing." The wind stirred, lifting her hair. She reached for the bundle of sage, her hands steady now. She lit it with a spark from the flint left beside it. Smoke curled upward, pale and fragrant. She did not know the proper words, so she spoke her truth. "I was a wife," she said. "I was loved. I loved in return. I lost it all." The smoke drifted toward the sky. "I have no claim here," she continued. "No blood, no name. But I have breath. I have will. I have learned to endure." Her voice wavered, but did not break. "If I am to live, let it be because I choose to live well. If I am to die, let it be with my eyes open." She bowed her head. When she looked up, someone stood at the edge of the circle. Red Hawk Dot. He had not been there before. Now he was silent as stone. He did not speak. He did not interrupt. He simply watched. The wind shifted. The smoke curled toward him, then drifted upward, thin and straight. Eliza felt something loosen in her chest, a knot she had carried since. The night of the fire unwound. Just a little. She rose slowly and stepped out of the circle. When she reached him, he spoke, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "You chose yourself." She nodded. He inclined his head in return. A gesture of respect behind them, the elders murmured. Some nodded, some frowned. But the decision had moved beyond them now. Red Hawk turned to face the gathered people. She walked the circle, he said. She stood alone. She spoke truth. Okay. Looked at Eliza. She did not ask for mercy. The elder with the staff stepped forward again. His gaze lingered on Eliza, then shifted to the crowd. The spirits have seen her, he said, and they did not turn away. A low murmur spread through the camp. She may remain, the elder continued, not as captive, not as guest. She will live among us as one who has chosen this path. The words struck Eliza like a wave. Relief washed through her so suddenly her knees nearly buckled. She did not cry, yet. Red Hawk moved to her side, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. He did not touch her, but his presence steadied her. The gathering began to break apart. People returned to their lives, their tasks, their conversations. Some looked at her differently now, curious, measuring, no longer hostile, as the sun dipped. Lower, Red Hawk finally spoke again. You walk between worlds now, he said. That is not an easy road. She looked at him. Is it one you've walked? A shadow crossed his face. Every day, silence stretched between them, comfortable. This time, she glanced toward the horizon where the land rolled on without end. Then I will learn. He nodded once. Good. They stood side by side, two figures bound by choice rather than fate. Watching the day fade, the wind carried the scent of sage and dust and distant rain. And for the first time since the night, her world burned. Eliza felt something steady take root inside. Her not hope, not yet, but the quiet certainty that she was still alive, and that meant everything. The dawn came quietly, as if it did not wish to disturb what had been set in motion. Mist clung to the low ground beyond the camp, silvering the grass and softening the edges of the world. Eliza woke before the sun, wrapped in the same robe, her body sore but steady. For the first time since the fire, she did not wake in fear. She listened. The camp breathed around her. Fires crackled low. Someone laughed softly in the distance. A child cried, then quieted. Life moved on. She rose and stepped outside. Red Hawk stood near the edge of the camp, watching the sky change color. He had not heard her approach, or perhaps he had and chose not to turn. His silhouette was calm, rooted, like part of the land itself. You're awake early, she said. He nodded. I sleep little before important days. She joined him, keeping a respectful distance. The wind stirred. Her hair, the smell of earth and ash filled her lungs. What happens now? She asked. He was quiet for a long moment. Now, the people watch. They listen. They decide who you will be to them, and you. He turned to face her fully. I already know who you are. She searched his face. Then tell me. You are someone who walked into fire and did not beg the flames to spare you, he said. You asked only to meet your end as yourself. That is a rare kind of strength. She swallowed. I was afraid. Yes, he said. And you walked? Anyway, the camp began to stir behind them. Women emerged with baskets. Children ran past, laughing. The ordinary rhythms of life resumed, indifferent to the weight of the days before. Red Hawk gestured toward the far side of the encampment. Come, there is one more thing. He led her beyond the lodges to a small rise overlooking the land. There, a simple fire pit had been prepared. Nearby lay a folded bundle of cloth and a small bowl of ash. This is for those who stand between, he said. Not fully of one world, not fully of another. Eliza's breath caught. You mean me. He nodded. She knelt by the fire pit. The ground was cool beneath her palms. The scent of sage drifted in the air. Red Hawk knelt across from her and placed the bowl between them. This is not a test, he said quietly. It is a promise. You take it, you walk this path, knowing. It will never be easy. "I already know that," she replied. He studied her face one last time, as if searching for doubt. Finding none, he dipped his fingers into the ash and traced a single line across her wrist. "Then hear this," he said. "You are not bound by blood, but by choice. You walk with us by will, not by chain." She felt the weight of his words. Settled deep inside her, he gestured for her to do the same. With steady hands, she dipped her fingers into the ash and drew a line across her own wrist, mirroring his. A breath passed between them. Something unseen settled, quiet and certain. From the edge of the clearing, voices murmured, some approving, some wary. But none rose in challenge. The ritual was complete. Later, as the day warmed and the camp resumed its rhythm, Eliza found herself sitting beside a small fire with the women who had once watched her with suspicion. One passed her a strip of dried meat. Another showed her how to soften hide with stone and water. A third corrected her grip without a word. It was not kindness, it was acceptance, and that, she realized, was harder earned. As the sun dipped low, Red Hawk approached again. He carried 2 cups of water and handed one to her. "You will stay," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," she replied. "If I am allowed," he gave a small nod. "You will be tested again, many times." She smiled faintly. "I would expect nothing less." They stood together as the light faded, watching. The camp settled into evening. Children's laughter drifted through the air. Smoke curled upward in pale threads. Somewhere, a drum began to beat, slow and steady. Like a heartbeat, she thought of the life she had lost, the home, the man she had loved, the future she once believed was fixed and safe. Grief still lived inside her, but it no longer owned her. "What will they call me?" she asked quietly. Red Hawk considered. "Names are given, not taken," he said. "In time, they will speak it." She nodded, accepting that. As darkness settled, a chill crept in. Without a word, Red Hawk draped a thick blanket over her shoulders. The gesture was simple, but it carried weight. "Thank you," she said. He met her gaze. "You walked into fire and did not turn back." She smiled faintly. "Neither did you." They stood together, 2 figures shaped by loss, by choice, by the quiet courage to keep moving forward. Above them, the stars emerged, one by one, bright and endless, for the first time since her world had burned. Eliza did not feel like she was waiting for something to end. She felt like something had begun, and though the road ahead would be hard-filled with trials, doubt, and the slow work of belonging, she stood ready, not as a woman clinging to what she had lost, but as one who had survived and chosen to live.